Hey leader, and welcome to episode number 345 of the L3 Leadership Podcast, where we are obsessed with helping you grow to your maximum potential and to maximize the impact of your leadership. My name is Doug Smith, and I am your host, and today's episode is brought to you by my friends at Baratung Advisors. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here, and I hope that you'll enjoy our content and become a subscriber. Know that you can also watch all of our episodes over on our YouTube channel, so make sure you're subscribed there as well. And as always, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while and it's impacted your life, it would mean the world to me if you would leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever app you listen to podcasts through. That really does help us to grow our audience and reach more leaders, so thank you in advance for that. Well, it's Thanksgiving week 2022, and this week I wanted to hop on the podcast and share a personal lesson with you called How to Be Grateful and Encourage Others Every Day. These are two of my favorite subjects to talk about: gratitude and encouragement, and I give you some extremely practical next steps that you can take with both of those subjects, and so I think you're really going to enjoy it. But before we dive into the lesson, just a few announcements. This episode of the L3 Leadership Podcast is sponsored by Baratung Advisors. The financial advisors at Baratung Advisors help educate and empower clients to make informed financial decisions. You can find out how Baratung Advisors can help you develop a customized financial plan for your financial future by visiting their website at baratungadvisors.com. That's BERATUNG advisors.com. Securities and investment products and services offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA and SIPC. Baratung Advisors, LPL Financial, and L3 Leadership are separate entities. I also want to thank our sponsor, Henny Jeweler. They're a jeweler owned by my friend and mentor, John Henny. My wife, Laura, and I got our engagement and wedding rings through Henny Jewelers and had a wonderful experience. And not only do they have great jewelry, but they also invest in people. In fact, for every couple that comes in engaged, they give them a book to prepare for marriage, and we just love that. So if you're in need of a good jeweler, check out hennyjewelers.com. And with all that being said, let's dive right in. Here's my lesson on gratitude and encouragement. Hey leader, today I'd like to talk to you on the subject, how to be grateful and encourage others every day. And these are two of my favorite subjects, and I'm going to be sharing with you some extremely practical ways that, one, you can be intentional in encouraging yourself by increasing your gratitude, and then two, how you can be extremely intentional in encouraging others. Because I really do believe that encouragement can transform a life. I was talking to a friend the other day, and I was talking about my story, and she said, have you ever recognized that in every major transformation that you've had in your life, it was because someone came into your life at just the right time and shared just the right word of encouragement that helped you transform your life? And I never really thought about it that way before, but it's absolutely true. My life has been transformed by the encouragement of others. And so in realizing that, it made me double down on the fact that, hey, I need to be involved in other people's lives, encouraging them on a daily basis. And so I'm going to be sharing with you some ways that I do that. So let's just dive right in, and I want to start talking about gratitude. And for me, gratitude is all about perspective. And I just want to share a great little story that I think gives a great perspective on gratitude, and it's called The Immigrant Shopkeeper. And here it goes. Once there was an immigrant shopkeeper whose son came to him one day complaining and said, "Dad, I don't understand how you run this store. You keep your accounts payable in a cigar box, your accounts receivable is on the spindle, and all of your cash is in the register. You're never going to know what all of your profits are." The immigrant shopkeeper father said to him, "Son, let me tell you something. When I arrived in this land, all I owned was the pants I was wearing. Now your sister is an art teacher, your brother is a doctor, and you're a CPA. Your mother and I own a house and a car in this little store. Add that all up and subtract the pants, and that is your profit." I love that story. And the reality is we all have so much to be grateful for if we'll just think about it. And so let me share with you some ways that you can intentionally every day encourage yourself by increasing your attitude. Number one is very, very simple. You need to make a list of everything that you're grateful for in your life. And the story I want to share here is there was a time, this was early on in our marriage, and I was just having a down day. I was really discouraged. I don't even remember for what, but when I get discouraged, I just kind of shut down. And I remember Laura looking at me, and she gets frustrated when I'm shut down because I don't want to talk to anyone and I don't want to open up and tell people what I'm thinking about. And she just said, "Well, why don't you go spend time with God?" Which usually just makes me more mad because I'm like, okay, that's the obvious answer. But she was right. And I listened to her, and I went into a room and I turned on some worship music and I just started spending time with God. And I felt led to read the book of Philippians. And when I was reading the book, God really spoke to me through the verse in Philippians 4:6. And it says this: "Don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Tell God what you need." And here is the thing that leapt off the page for me: "And thank him for all he has done." and thank him for all he has done. And when I read that, I felt prompted to actually start journaling about everything that I was thankful for that God had done in my life. And I started journaling just things that God had done since the moment I got saved when I was 17 years old. And I remember getting about a half a page down my journal, and I was only about 6 months into my walk with God. And I realized I have so much to be thankful for. And I just started crying and thanking God. And I just thought, who am I to get discouraged? Like I was just discouraged and shut down. I have so much to be grateful for. And instantly, literally, the discouragement left and I got fired up. And so anytime I start to get discouraged, I just start to list out everything that I'm grateful for. And I think if you'll just take the time to make a list of everything that you're grateful for, you'll be shocked at how much you have to be grateful for in your life. And I think you'll be shocked at what that'll do to your attitude, what that'll just do to the way you interact with people. And so that would be the first thing I would encourage you to do. The second thing I would encourage you to do is Laura and I, probably 5 or 6 years ago, started using an app called the 5-Minute Journal. And I love this app because every day it takes less than 5 minutes to do, but it actually gives you prompts for your day, both in the beginning of your day and in the evening. And one of the prompts in the morning that you're asked every day is name 3 things that you're grateful for. And so every single day I open the app and I have to write down 3 things that I'm thankful for. And so I'm starting my day with gratitude, automatically thinking intentionally through things I'm grateful for. And so if you've never downloaded the app, I encourage you to. It's really, really cool. You can put a picture of the day. There's affirmations in there every day. You can put highlights. And it's really cool to be able to go back and see what some of your affirmations and things you were grateful for years ago. Again, that's the 5-Minute Journal app. Highly, highly recommend that. So that's number 2. Number 3, the third thing I would tell you to do is to teach your family to be grateful. So this is something that we try to instill with our kids. I love this. A few years ago, Laura, in the month of November, started something we call the Grateful Pumpkin. And usually people get pumpkins for decorations, in October and November. And so she started taking one of the pumpkins, and every night we try to have dinner together. And we would ask in the month of November for everyone around the table to name something or someone they are grateful for. And then we would actually take a Sharpie marker and start to write that around the pumpkin. And by the end of the month, you have an entire pumpkin filled with things that the family is grateful for. And I just thought that was a beautiful way to really teach your family the power of gratitude and to be grateful for everything and everyone in their life. And so if any of you are out there are parents and you have other ways to teach your kids this, I would love to hear it. Please let me know. But teach your kids and your family to be grateful. And then number 4 is the Keep a Rainy Day file. And what a rainy day file. I started this probably 20 years ago. My mentor, Larry Betancourt, encouraged me to do this, but I just keep a file in a filing cabinet. And anytime someone writes me an encouraging note or says something encouraging to me, or if I have an article that I did and it encouraged me to read it, etc., I'll put it in a rainy day file. And so I literally have a file with 20 years worth of thank you notes, encouragement notes, etc. And so when I have a rainy day, or if I'm feeling discouraged or feeling like I'm not making a difference, I just open that up. I read a few of those, and all of a sudden I realize, I have a lot to be grateful for, and I'm very, very grateful, and this is very encouraging. And so that gets me out of my funk. And so those are 4 extremely practical things that I do to encourage myself every day and increase my gratitude. I hope that helps you. And now I just want to jump into encouraging others, which is another one of my favorite subjects. And 2 quotes that I want to share in the area of encouraging others. The first one is this. This is my favorite one. I share it every Thanksgiving. Gertrude Stein said this. She said, "Silent gratitude isn't very much use to anyone." I love that. Silent gratitude isn't very much use to anyone. And oftentimes I think we think the world of so many people, and we're so grateful for the impact that they've had on their lives, but we never tell them that. And if you never tell someone how they've impacted you or what you think of them, what good is that? Don't hold it inside. Never hold encouragement inside. Why? Because everyone needs encouragement. How do you know someone needs encouraged? Here's just a hint. They're breathing. Everyone on the planet needs encouragement. And so this is very, very important, and you have to vocalize it. And it doesn't have to be verbal. It can be written, etc. But silent gratitude never did anyone any good. The second quote I love is from a guy named Sam. I can't pronounce his last name, but he said this. He said, "One of the greatest gifts you can give someone is a new belief about themselves." This is huge. One of the greatest gifts that you can give someone is a new belief about themselves. And I talked a little bit earlier about some of the transformations that have taken place in my life were a result of the encouragement of others. And so many times it was a leader who is further down the road than me coming into my life and basically helping me, giving me a new belief about myself, seeing something in me that I didn't see in myself, seeing what I could become, seeing gifts in me that I didn't know I had. And these leaders speaking those things into me changed my life, and they transformed me forever. And thinking, looking back, what if those leaders wouldn't have said that to me? What if they wouldn't have encouraged me or said that they see something in me that I don't see in myself and see my potential? If those leaders didn't share that with me, I don't know that I would be on this podcast right now. And so I'm just very, very grateful. But again, this just goes back to being intentional. If you're going to encourage others and make a difference in their life, it has to be intentional. So how do you do this practically? Number one, you have to make it a goal. And I would encourage you to make it a goal to encourage one person every day. Make it a goal to encourage one person every day. How do you do this? It's very, very simple. You wake up, and I got this from John Maxwell. You wake up in the morning and you look over your calendar and you say, who can I add value? Or in other words, who can I add value to? Or in other words, who can I encourage today on my calendar? Who do I have meetings with? Hey, is there someone I could call? And just pick a name, pick a meeting, and think through, how can I specifically encourage that person today? And then do it, right? And then encourage them. Think of something encouraging to say, or write them a note, but make it a goal every day to encourage at least one person. And then at the end of the day, check yourself. Hey, who did I encourage today? Who did I add value to today? And if you'll do that every day, can you imagine the compound effect of you encouraging someone every single day that you're alive, every single day of the year? The impact of that could be absolutely huge. You could transform so many people's lives if you're just intentional. The second thing I would tell you to do to be intentional encouraging others is to tell someone what you admire about them or how they've helped you. So again, when you're thinking through how to encourage someone, think through, hey, this is what I admire in you. I love the way that you love people, or I love how encouraging you are, or I love the way that you make decisions. I love the way that you lead our team. I love the way that you solve problems. There's a thousand different ways, or 1,000 different things you could admire about someone. Just tell them that. And if someone's made an impact in your life, and I'll talk more about this in a moment, but let them know that, even if it was 20 years ago. Again, people never get tired of hearing that they made a difference, and it may be something that they need to hear because they may not feel like they're making a difference in the current season of their life. So always let people know how you've impacted them. Number 3 is write thank you cards consistently. I'm not perfect at this, but I interviewed Jeff Henderson on the podcast a while back, and I know he makes it a goal to write 3 thank you cards a day. And imagine if you wrote 3 thank you cards a day every single day of the year. Again, what impact could you make just by writing people to encourage them? Number 4, and this is one of my favorites, host a gratitude dinner. Host a gratitude dinner. And this is something we started in the beginning of L3 Leadership. In our mastermind groups, we require all of our mastermind groups to have a gratitude dinner. Usually it's in Thanksgiving, around Thanksgiving. And all a gratitude dinner is when you come together for a meal and you share a meal and, have a great conversation over dinner. But then after dinner, you have an intentional time of encouraging each other. And how we do this is very, very simple. If we had a table of 12 people, and I was at the table, we would start with me, just for the sake of the example. And we would go around the room, and each person around the table would say something that they see in me, or they would encourage me with whatever's on their heart to encourage. And something we do actually as prep work is we actually ask people, hey, before you come to this dinner, we really want you to just spend 30 to 60 minutes with your journal praying about what would God have you say to encourage the people that we're going to encourage tonight. And so we want people to put thought into it. We don't just want them to impulsively say what they're grateful for or encourage them randomly. We want it to be intentional. And so they're coming in with ideas on how they're going to do that already. And then we go around the room, and something beautiful that we do in some of our groups is we actually record the encouragement. So we just pass around our phone with a voice memo app. And then we take all of those recordings and we send them to the person who is being encouraged. And so all of a sudden, and again, my mastermind group specifically has been meeting for 7 years. We have several years worth of recordings of 12 men encouraging us. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And the impact of this is huge. Now, I know some leaders think this is over the top or it's boring to have an agenda. They'd rather just hang out. But to see the impact that this has had on lives is huge. We had a guy that was in a mastermind group several years ago, and we were sitting around the table. And after the gratitude dinner, he just started crying, and we just said, what's up? And this was his direct quote. He said, I'm a bastard, I'm a felon, and I'm an army brat. And I beat myself up all day. Thank you for letting me know that I still have value. Thank you for letting me know that I still have value. After he said that, I doubled down. I'm going to encourage people every day. You never know someone's background. You never know what someone's going through. And that transformed that person's life that day. And two other instances I'm thinking of at gratitude dinners. One of the guys in one of our mastermind groups, I remember him being in a ball, crying afterwards. And he said, I've never had anything like this in my entire life. And he said, I didn't have a dad that encouraged me. I've never been encouraged by other men. And I can't tell you how meaningful this is to me. And I heard a story of another mastermind group. Again, someone just experienced a gratitude dinner for the first time, and they said, oh my gosh, I've never been encouraged like that. This was the most amazing night ever. And so if you've never hosted a gratitude dinner, and this isn't something you just need to do in a mastermind group or with friends, you can also do this with your family. This is something we try to do around our dinner table with our family at Thanksgiving time. Hey, what do you see in each other? What are you grateful for about each other? And it is so, so powerful. So if you've never hosted a gratitude dinner, do that. And then my final practical step for you today would be to write 3 letters to the most influential people in your life every single year. And so what that looks like for me is every year, if you're familiar with the L3 system, every year I do a year-end review. And it's one of the most beautiful things I do. If you've never done one, every December we post a podcast episode and post an ebook on how to do a year-end review. And so I really encourage you to have that practice in your life. And as a part of my year-end review, as I'm reflecting back on the previous year, I just think through who are the people that influenced me more than anybody else. And I come up with a top 3 list, and then I write them a letter and sign it and send it to them, letting them know that they were one of the most influential people in my life that year. And then I list off specific ways that they impacted and transformed my life. And I've gotten great feedback from the people who have received that. They're greatly honored, and it greatly encourages them. And it's a great thing for me to really just be reflective on and to be able to encourage others. And so 5 simple steps: make it a goal to encourage everyone every day, encourage someone every day, tell someone what you admire about them and how they've helped you, write thank you cards consistently, host a gratitude dinner, and then write 3 letters to the most influential people in your life every year. And so I know this was a short lesson. I hope it really gave you some practical things you can do to encourage yourself by increasing your gratitude, but also how you can be intentional in encouraging others. And I hope that you'll use that encouragement to transform lives all over the planet. And so I'll end this lesson by saying this, that I'm thankful for you. It was over 10 years ago now that I started this podcast, and I remember starting it and never knowing if one person would listen or if I would impact one person's life. And here we are, 300 and almost 50 lessons later, and, hundreds of thousands of downloads, and have impacted thousands of leaders. And I've gotten so much great feedback from you of how we've impacted your life through the podcast. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for letting me know how the podcast has impacted your life. That greatly encourages me to keep doing this. And just thank you for being a part of my life. The podcast is one of the joys of my life. And so to be able to add value to you is very meaningful to me. And so I just want to say thank you. I hope you listen to this before Thanksgiving, I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving with your family and friends. And again, I hope that you'll be intentional with your gratitude and with your encouragement. We'll talk to you next time. Well, hey, leader, thank you so much for listening to my lesson on encouragement and gratitude. I hope that it added value to your life. You can find links to everything that I discussed in the show notes at l3leadership.org/345. And as always, I like to end every episode with a quote, and today I'll quote Gerald Brooks, who said this. He said, "Most people want to lead, they just don't want to lead themselves." That is so good. Well, leader, I hope that this episode encouraged you, and just know that Laura and I love you, we believe in you, and we say it every episode, but keep leading, don't quit. The world desperately needs your leadership. We'll talk to you next episode.